Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, that's right. It's afternoon here in these grand United States of America. Welcome to the inaugural episode of the Stateside Squad. Here we go, people. Indeed, as you know, the Highbury Squad is bringing you different types of content from all sorts of walks of life and different subjects. And as you know, I have been living here in the United States for about 20 years, and I thought it was about time we did a stateside show. I've been talking to a few people about this. It's going to have a little bit of a twist each week, every other week when we do it. Joining me is going to be one of my resident guests right here. My girl, Amelia Lopez. Welcome to the show, Amelia.
Hi, Sophie. So excited to do this with you. I know both of us are in a good place right now because of yesterday's results. So already kicking off.
Listen, this is what everyone needs to know. Tell them you're a gooner. That's the other thing.
I am a gooner. So I've been on Sophie's Highbury Squad pod once, luckily, and I got to meet Kevin Campbell and talk to a bunch of other stateside gooners, as you call it. So I was super on board. In fact, our story begins with me introducing myself to Sophie, knowing that I had slight leeway because I was an Arsenal fan. I'm like, okay, I'm going to say hi to her. I know she's an Arsenal fan. So I'm going to go talk to her, and she welcomed me with open arms.
The rest is history. The rest is history. So really excited. You and I and our girl Delmi Barillas, who is a host and reporter for LA Sports Access, is not on the show today, but she will be the week after next. Before we get kicking, Amelia, tell everyone about your background a little bit, the type of football stuff you talk about, because this show is going to be primarily MLS driven, but we're going to do NWSL, the US women's team, the men's team, and a little Liga MX as well, where you are the Don.
Yeah, so I definitely am a Mexican soccer fan, viewer, everything through and through. That's where I got my start. That's actually how I got into, technically speaking, the LA Galaxy sphere. That's where Sophie and I met. When Gio came on, I know nobody likes to talk about him, but that's how I started with my MLS journey, a little bit more in depth. But yeah, I primarily focus on Mexican players wherever they are, women and men, in Europe, in Mexico, here in the US. But I'm excited to do this because obviously as you get more into different leagues, you get to know everything about those leagues. So I've been in MLS sphere as an LA native for my entire life, but as a journalist for the last 4 years or so. So definitely excited to do this with Sophie as well.
Yeah, and I'm so excited for you to be on it too, because I think you're very unique in the sense that you know the landscape of the sport here, but your expertise on Mexican football is just really superb in the sense that now you're covering the women's game, which is just kicking in and growing and getting attention on TV, but also with so many Mexican players playing in MLS and the tete-a-tete as well between the two leagues, you bring a unique perspective to the conversation. So, and Hugo Sanchez, I was a Hugo Sanchez fan. Mexico 86 was the best, by the way. So I'm excited to kind of have a little bit of a diversity and talk about the beautiful game from a few different angles.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in very different ways. I think we come into it not necessarily as outsiders, but more like we've integrated into the culture in very different ways. Me is as a Mexican American who has liked both leagues. I'm definitely in that sphere of I've never been anti one or anti Liga MX or anti MLS. I enjoy both of them. I think it's interesting when they end up facing off against each other in CONCACAF, Champions League, and all those good tournaments. So we definitely have a really, and then of course you come in, like you said, you've been here for 20 years, and you bring in your perspective comparing certain teams with certain EPL teams. So definitely excited to be able to.
Yeah, me too. And as Football Brownie says, Mexico was my best too, Sophie. It was my first World Cup, and I'm convinced that your first World Cup is always your best World Cup. It was a fantastic, tournament. So yeah, Right, let's get stuck into things here. We're going to be with you for the next 35 minutes. It's going to be nice and fast and quick-paced. We've got lots to deliver.
Children will interrupt us at any moment.
It's going to be a little bit like how Arsenal used to play back in the day, and how they play when only Saka and ESR are on the pitch. But I digress. Here we go. So, as you know, Amelia, I was covering MLS Media Week. The season kicks off tonight. Today. Is it tonight? Today, somewhere in the world. And this weekend, it's going to be crazy busy. I'm going to the LAFC game tomorrow, which is going to be fascinating because they play Austin FC. And so, you know, I've got a few sound bites to play for you. It was a unique week. We had Don Garber kick it off on Monday, talking about, it was like a State of the Union. I think it's a good union. It's a healthy union despite COVID and the challenges that the league have faced financially. You've got the usual favorites in play, and Amelia will run us through a little bit of the top 10 towards the end of the show. But I wanted to get started with the team I think that's probably under the most pressure this season, Amelia. And I don't know if you agree or disagree with me, but I think that's LAFC. This is their 4th season now. Bob Bradley has won big time before in MLS, and obviously we've seen him manage the US men's national team too. So I wanted to play a clip from Bob Bradley on the pressure he's supposedly facing for the season. Here we go.
Every season's now or never. So I didn't say there's no pressure. There's pressure to win every game. There's pressure to win trophies. We take the responsibility seriously. If we're going to be a big team, then we have to win. And so far, I think I've said it before. We have a supporter shield. Some people call that a trophy, some don't. I do, actually, just because I think if you're the team that goes through the regular season with the most points, that's meaningful. It would be more meaningful for sure if the schedule was balanced and everybody played the same teams the same number of times. And of course, it would even be more special if that's how we crown the champion. So that's not the case. But we still take that seriously, and we know that when you get to the end of the year in MLS, the champion is the champion of the playoffs. And so far, we haven't been able to accomplish that. And we start every season knowing that that's got to be a goal. But to get there, you've got to be a team that grows throughout a season. And I said at the beginning of the call, the idea is to play as many great games as possible before you get to the playoffs. The idea is to raise the bar as high as you can, score as many goals as you can, have as many clean sheets as possible, have as many players as you can think of that have great seasons, and then be ready at the end of the year to go for it.
Interesting comments from him. Couple of hidden veiled excuses in the middle there, I thought, Amelia. Talk to me about LAFC and whether or not you think they're under pressure this season to deliver the big one.
I don't know. It's such a complicated conversation with LAFC for me, just because I feel like a lot of it has been manufactured, and it makes sense, right? I think when you have a player like Vela, you do have that slight pressure from all angles. And then you do kind of formulate that pressure yourself. He said it himself, right? Like supporter shield, that's a huge accomplishment. Does that really mean anything in the long run? I think you and a lot of different people in the MLS industry have had conversations about that, and it's true. He said it himself. Technically speaking, they were the best team at some point, getting the most points, but that doesn't matter if you don't win the finals. And that's unfortunately where they've suffered a lot, not just in MLS. I mean, They did fantastic work in the Champions League only to flounder against Tigres. So I think a little bit is manufactured. I think, even now we're going to go into the rankings, you still see that added pressure from MLS, but they do deliver, like Bob likes to say, they do deliver good soccer when they play to their full potential. But I in another way, I just feel like they need to be given some slack a little bit, but it's hard to say that because they also end up doing good and then not doing good at certain points that you can't help but understand why people put the pressure on them that they do.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think when you come in with the fanfare they did and the bravado and the arrogance, I think that's where a lot of people that maybe don't support LAFC say, well, you know.
But now this is an interesting question to ask. Can you argue that they themselves haven't really formulated that arrogance? Because I mean, like, and I say that.
No, they have. They did it all themselves. It's all their marketing. You know,
well, no, but that's what I mean. It's not so much the players. I think that's where I go into it. Like, it feels unfair to the players because they're delivering good work. Or Vela is a good player, Rossi's a good player, Atuesta's a good player, so to speak. But yeah, it's almost unfair to them because that marketing and just the way the media sometimes does it, it feels unfair to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I think the league put pressure on them. I think the league put pressure on Vela last season and the season before. I think the league put pressure on. I'm not a huge, I mean, Bob Bradley, I think, has had his ups and downs in his career. He's very straight, stern. He's a no nonsense guy. Some people maybe misinterpret that. But there's no doubt, like when it comes to the US men's team and here in the league, he's delivered and he has that pedigree. Obviously, Swansea wasn't a great experience, but he also did bite the bullet and went to manage a completely different international team, didn't even speak the language. So you have to give him kudos for that. Let's hear from Vela on this season, and then I'm going to follow it up with another quote that I had asked him about. But let's just get Carlos Vela, the old Arsenal boy's take on this season. Here we go.
Yeah, I mean, we are really excited to start a season. We can see a new challenge, a new chance to play our football, to do our best and try to finally win a trophy. I think it's our goal. We are preparing ourselves to be better than the last year, and I hope we can do a great things, not just for us, for our fans, and for everybody.
I think it's been easy to point the finger at Vela because when you do become the poster boy, and it's not like he asked for it, but he embraced it, he took it on. Also with the passionate and vast Hispanic audience that we have here, LAFC, LA Galaxy rivalry, Amelia, you can talk to that. I mean, it's real, it exists. Zlatan helped create that, let's be honest. He was so unlikable with LAFC fans that he was able to really solidify that rivalry when he arrived. But Carlos Vela, he's a good guy. He's one of football's good guys. And he's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders. I don't care what anyone thinks looking from the outside into MLS, but there's a lot of pressure here for the DP players, the top players that come to play here.
Yeah, and I mean, whether you want to talk about it or not, because as a member of the Mexican media, it's been talked about to death, but he does always have that giant pressure from Mexican media because they're just watching him and they're just wanting, I don't want to say fail at this point, because I have always appreciated and respected Vela because he lets his performances do the talking. The only unfortunate part of that is that it doesn't seem to show up in big games, but I don't necessarily think that's entirely his fault because he's one player and there's a whole team. So I think that's where that narrative changes very quickly, right? And that's not just within Mexican media, that's also within the MLS media itself. In Champions League, they'll turn him into this hero when he goes ahead and defeats Liga MX teams. But when he can't show up to beat Tigres, he'll take that villain role in a sense. But he's always been a player that's about the performance on the field, and if he's in a good mindset, he'll do well. So I think that I generally do think he means it whenever he says the important thing is to win, the important thing is to try to get a title and all of that. I mean, he's also done, like you said, in comparison to Zlatan, and as two people that cover LA Galaxy, Zlatan not being able to do more while he was on the team doesn't speak to the performance or the level of a player that he is. He just didn't have the support that he needed. Whereas Vela did, and he was able to do what he wanted. He was Golden Boot winner, and he was MVP. So he does let his performances do the talking, and I do think he generally wants them to do well. It just goes back to, will they actually be able to do it under Bob Bradley, and will the team be able to perform in those moments where they actually have pressure?
And that's the key. It's all well and good winning the Supporters' Shield, but what are you going to do in the playoffs? So here's his answer to my question. I asked Carlos about whether or not he'd sacrifice being MVP this season and winning the Golden Boot in order to win the big one. Here's Carlos Vela's response. And to all you Gooners out there listening, it is nice to see him. And yes, he does sound a little bit like Arteta.
The first question, yeah, of course. For me, the most important is win something with my team, because in the end, football is for a sport of teams. So it's so important for me to bring a trophy for this club, for these fans. But in the end, the most important thing is like have fun. Every time I go out on the field, I try to do my best. I try to have fun and try to make or create something for our fans to say, wow, we come here and we watch this. So it's one of the goals I have in my head, and I try to do every weekend.
You know, he's definitely brought the fun to LAFC. And I wish that a lot of international fans could experience the atmosphere at Bank of California Stadium, Amelia. It's like a mix of being at a Boca Juniors River Plate game, some insane game in Mexico, mashed up with Borussia Dortmund and the Yellow Wall. I mean, it is probably one of the most fun atmospheres I've ever experienced in a football game. And Vela and Diego Rossi and a lot of those other players had a lot to do with bringing the fun component and a little bit of that sexy football to Los Angeles.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about fun and intensity. The first match that comes to mind is LAFC versus León. That was just entirely incredible experience to watch, because I actually went to the game in León, and then I came back to LA and watched the second leg, and to just see him do what he did is amazing. I mean, as much as he is just kind of portrayed as that villain, like I think somebody wrote, I miss that guy. I don't know who they're referring to.
I think they miss Vela. An Arsenal fan was saying that they miss Vela. Yeah.
But it could apply to any team that he's played for. I mean, Mexico, obviously he said goodbye to that a long time ago. Arsenal, Real Sociedad, he is a good player and he does possess that quality. And I'm sure he does. I've always really respected Vela because he is very much a human, like a human first and then an athlete. He gets a lot of flack because he says that like basketball is his favorite sport or whatever. That's like a huge thing, but he thrives where he's comfortable, and he's very comfortable in LA. He's very comfortable with LAFC, and he performs for them time and time again. So I think he means it. I think he means it when he says, I would much rather win a title at this point. I think for him, like we've just said, he's basically checked off all the boxes. That's the only thing that's left for him.
Yeah, absolutely. Completely agree. And I think their agenda will be a little bit different this year. So there is a new shiny toy in town now, shinier and brighter and louder than even LAFC. And it's not in California. It's in the... Huh?
Do you think they're louder?
Oh, I think it's going to be insane in Austin. I don't know. It's going to be a very, I wish this game was full capacity, right? And hopefully by the time they get to Texas, it will be. But I'm going to play a couple of clips. I'm going to go back to Bob Bradley because he's talking about playing Austin FC. And for those of you listening, it's the new expansion team in town. They have sold 15,500 season tickets, Amelia. And we're in the middle of a pandemic. It's incredible what's been happening in Austin. So let's hear the sound bites and then I'll get your take on it. Here we go with Bob Bradley facing Austin FC on opening weekend.
Yeah, it's incredible. Obviously, the first season in Chicago, Josh was a young player who jumped into a good team and had moments of brilliance, and it was the start of an excellent career. And it was always fun to continue to see him develop and grow. And now, like some others from that Chicago team, he's moved into coaching, and I'm proud of all those guys. Whenever you play against a team that is playing its very first game in history, you understand how much it means to the club and to the fans. And so you have great respect for that, and you appreciate that they're going to come to Bank of California Stadium and throw their best effort out, because that'll be everybody will always look back on that first game. So we are expecting an excellent match, and I look forward to seeing Josh before the game.
And Amelia, if anyone knows about being the shiny new toy in town and having to come in and put your money where your mouth is, we talked about the blitz, the marketing, the PR, LAFCs landing on Southern California shores. I compare it to the noisy neighbors of Man City and Man United, maybe even a little Tottenham Arsenal until they win the big one. You know, they haven't arrived. So what's your take on what he's saying and Austin FC coming into town? It's not going to be easy for them, but my goodness, they've started off like with a wow factor when it comes to their marketing and PR as well.
Yeah, and I mean, you have Matthew McConaughey at the forefront. Like you're gonna play a video right now, right? It's like there's very much that same feeling of like kind of, you know, like you said, big shiny new toy. I do have my reservations about Austin FC in both as a team and as like a PR expansion move, because it's not like Austin FC is necessarily a Cinderella story. There's a very interesting dynamic at play there about how they got to be Austin FC that a lot of people try to forget. You know, I mean, the current.
Tell it to give everyone a quick soundbite.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, essentially, Austin FC wasn't supposed to be in Austin. They were supposed to be what is still Columbus Crew. And they, you know, ironically enough, they just ended up winning the MLS Cup last season. So there's a lot of hostility. Is that the right word to say? There's like there's hostility around Austin FC that it leaves a little bit of a bad taste in your mouth.
Especially as Columbus nearly went bankrupt, right? And the fact that they were able to win MLS Cup last season, I mean, it's an insane story. It really is.
It's a complete credit to the fans, honestly. If you want to do more research on it, it's just them talking about how much they cared about their team and how much they didn't want to have have them relocated and stuff like that. So, you know, and then I think as an organization, they're kind of pressing buttons they shouldn't be pressing, because I think there was like a tweet that was like how it started versus how it's going, and everybody's like, but that's not how it started. You know, so I mean, you know, it's a new team, so we go at it with, you know, a clean slate. We don't have any expectations or any ideas, but I think LAFC is probably going to win it. But I also don't think that because LAFC is going to win it, it means that Austin is a bad team. You know, we still just see what they're able to do, how they're able to do it. But it does leave like a weird taste in my mouth. And
yeah, no, like, I love your take on it, and we have a lot of listeners that are tuning in that don't know that story, so it's important for them to know. I mean, they also, I mean, the amount of money behind them too is insane, really, when you think about it. And they also have this guy, and hold your thought for a minute, because I'm going to play this. So I asked Matthew McConaughey, the Academy Award-winning, Golden Globe-winning cinematic legend, who is the Minister of Culture for Austin FC. Talk about marketing 101 here, people. But I tell you, he's got the gift of the gab. I asked him about his international status and how he'll help bring the good word to the universe about MLS and Austin. And then if it would be as rewarding to win MLS Cup with Austin FC as it was to win a shiny Academy Award. Here we go, Matthew McConaughey.
Look, me as an international person who has a megaphone and a platform and has had international success, it just makes sense. I'm coming in on the great international game of football, but who am I representing in particular? My hometown team, Austin FC. Now I can have that conversation with people when I travel the world about my team and about soccer, and they'll know about them. And if they don't, I'll give them a T-shirt and let them know what we got and what we got going. I'm gonna have so much fun with these new conversations myself as I travel the world in every country, talking the game of football. And now I've got a badge to wear with it. And when I represent Austin FC, I'm representing the MLS. When I represent the MLS, I'm representing the game of football. So it's win-win-wins. Everything, they're all feeding each other. And I'm happy to be right here along with this for the ride, because soccer is on the come as a game in America. And we got World Cup coming over here. We're going to be hosting the world soccer. We're going to have the stage. We're going to have you on our front porch in a few years. That's extremely exciting there. So everything's just kind of lined up. I'm excited about the future, about where we are right here, and about where we'll be later on. Raising a trophy as an MLS champion. Let me go through some more blood, sweat, and tears. Let me go through a season or seasons, losses, wins, ups, downs, and get to the end. And if we raise that trophy, then I can tell you how I feel about that.
Matthew McConaughey, live and direct he was that day from his RV, Amelia. If anything, the dude oozes coolness.
He was. Somebody said something else. I was not thinking that, but I was like, I wonder where he is. That was an interesting background choice.
Yeah, no. Listen, you can't doubt the man's passion. He loves his hometown. He's a Texan through and through. He's been a football fan for a long, long time. Unfortunately, I think he supports Chelsea, so we're going to hold that against him just a little bit. But when you have a spokesperson like him, a little bit like LAFC with some of their owners, you know, it happened back in the day with Will Ferrell and Drew Carey, you know, if you're a new league and especially in America where celebrity does bring attention, we're seeing that with Angel City FC here too. But at least he knows his football, and that's what I like about him. He's not just a what do they call it? He's not a puppet.
Talking head. Talking
head. Even better.
I mean, you know, as much as I said, you know, I'm very skeptical because of the way that Austin FC is formed. You can't deny that there are a lot of good fans out there excited for this team. You know, I personally know a Mexican fan base that's over there that's just all in with Austin FC, and I'm sure that's going to bring a level of intensity that, like we were saying, maybe it's not, you know, the 32-52, but it is going to be something special for them, and they really feel that, you know, which is a really cool thing. I appreciate the fact that he's also not negating what is at the long-term goal of everyone involved in this, right? They're trying to solidify a soccer feel as we get closer and closer to 2026. I think that's something that everybody knows and feels. So I liked it. I remember you shared it on Instagram a few days ago, and I was listening to it, and you know, he is very passionate about whatever he does, and this is just an added bonus. And I do also appreciate the fact that he's like, but let me actually understand what it is like to be part of a club culture, and we're not going to win everything, right? He's not saying, oh, we're day one, we're going to get the trophy and everything. He's telling you, let me experience losses and experience and then we'll see where we go. And I really appreciate that kind of self-awareness in that.
Yeah, me too. I thought that was pretty cool. You know, I should have had a 32-52 video ready to go to show everyone. I'm going to try and find it in our next segment because, you know, if you guys don't know, you can tell them, Amelia, 32-52 is literally already in the short space of time, 4th season now. It's become legendary in the game.
Yeah, it's literally 3,252 seats is what they call, LAFC calls it, the supporter section. It's all in one section. So you feel that intensity. They have different, I guess you would call them chapters or supporter groups, but that's like the top government within LAFC. And when they coordinate and they get together and they do their chants, it is something special, and it really brings a really great all of them. They do the Jump for LA Football Club, and they look like a wave, and it looks really cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. All right, cool. So we'll move on a little bit here. Thank you to, you know, Bob Bradley, Matthew McConaughey, Carlos Vela, the MLS crew for being able to capture the videos as well. We're going to move a little bit to LA Galaxy now. We're tackling LAFC and LA Galaxy more so today. You guys were based here in Southern California. Obviously, Austin FC are playing LAFC, but also Inter Miami. Mr. David Beckham's shiny new toy. He has one too. Not to be outdone by Austin FC or anybody. I think everyone feels, Amelia, too, this really is the inaugural season for Inter Miami. In Project Restart, things were a little bit tougher for everybody last season. So here's what I'm going to do. Phil Neville, the former Lionesses manager, has taken over. And
how do you feel about that, Soph?
Listen, the Neville brothers aren't very good managers. I didn't think he did a good job with the Lionesses. I don't think that we progressed much. I thought we had a poor outing at the last World Cup. Really, we should have done a lot better. He got the job because David Beckham's his mate. Would he have got that job otherwise? I don't think so. He's a good guy, Phil. I like Phil. His heart's in the right place. It's going to be interesting to see how this unfolds. He talked in the presser about trying to understand. He talked about his director of football and how he's been a guide to help him understand Amelia, because people don't realize you can't buy anyone when you want. You can't do stuff when you want. You can't offer whatever you want. There are lots of rules and regulations. The travel.
Explain GAM and TAM and all the other apps.
exactly. And you saw Gerrard struggle out here. I mean, I had a conversation with Steven Gerrard, and and Rooney, they didn't realize the time zone difference, the elevation, all of these things that go into play. So
commercial flights.
Yeah, exactly. Commercial flights. Dear God. I mean, seriously, things have evolved a little bit for some teams, and the bargaining agreement too has helped that a little bit. So let's listen to Phil Neville, Inter Miami coach, talking about facing his former teammate, Mr. Juan Chicharito. Here we go.
Well, I think when people ask me about Chicharito, the first word that comes to mind is goals. But I hope on Sunday that is not the case. He's a proven goal scorer. Being a Manchester United supporter growing up, and when Chicharito was obviously at the club, he took part, or he was part of a great team. And he was like, the super sub, the fox in the box. The goals that he used to score were fantastic. And I was lucky enough to coach him for a year at Manchester United when I was assistant manager there. So I know his qualities. I know what he can give to the team. I know that he's hungry. I've seen some of the interviews that he's given after probably what was a disappointing season for him last year. So I think if I was a centre back and thinking about the movements, his runs, the timing of his runs, the fact that when the ball comes into the box, he will always be there to score goals. We've got to make sure that we defend as well as we possibly can against someone that's played at the very top level, against the best defenders. It'll be good to see him before and after, but hopefully no goals, obviously during the 90 minutes.
Chicharito's got a big season ahead of him. This game, I think, this opening game for LA Galaxy is so important. I think the pressure's all on them, Amelia. Do you agree?
Yeah, 100%. I think we've been in a strong anticipation for this season to finally start, just to see them and what they can do. I mean, Chicharito's narrative this preseason has been a roller coaster, but it seems to be going in a more positive way. He's definitely been working out, more dedicated to his fitness. He has had some personal issues along the way, but he seemed to be willing to speak a little bit more I saw some videos from LA Galaxy, surrounding MLS Media Day. And I think anybody who knows, just like Neville said, anybody who knows Chicharito knows that he's a goal scorer. Ugly or beautiful, whatever the case is, he possesses that talent. I think last season was just I don't even want to call it disaster. It felt a little bit more depressing than that, actually. But they have Vanny over there. They seem to be, it's still a rebuilding spot that LA Galaxy is going to be in. But if preseason is any indication, he's doing the right moves. He's finding good movement off the ball. He's trying to position himself in the right way. So I hope he does. I hope he scores, much to Neville's dismay. But I do hope that he starts it off on the right foot going into that game against Inter Miami.
I mean, his opening season was very disappointing. But like you said, he had a lot of troubles, didn't he? Lots of things going on in his life as well. And I want to play a clip. It's a little bit longer, but it's important. I know I've got to get you out real quick. I only have 2 or 3 left, but I wanted to play this because it speaks to not only what's happening in football on a global level, but it also explains a little bit about where Chicharito is coming from. And I think it's an important one to hear.
Yeah, I think, and thank you for bringing this subject that I'm very into it, and I believe a lot, but I think it's coming on not only for the soccer athletes, it's coming from you guys too, because I think the narrative of ourselves is in your hands sometimes, and it's in my hands, for example, right? Because I can post something that is very vulnerable, and if you twist it, it cannot have the same impact like your question right now. So I think what you said, that is a subject that is very difficult to talk, that is difficult. I hope one day we can normalize that it doesn't matter how much fame you have, it doesn't matter how much money you have, it doesn't matter how much success you have in the superficial way, it doesn't matter nothing about it. You're still a human, right? You are not more or less than any human being in this world. It doesn't matter. So I think that's a work not only of us in a way. I'm speaking us because I don't want to separate it myself from the humans all around the world, but I mean like sport athletes, and where your job has a lot of, like you said, a lot of engagement in social media, a lot of impact in your words, a lot of like kind of responsibility. I think we shouldn't ask for perfection, because perfection doesn't exist. That's what makes us incredible, that we are humans and we are not perfect, and each day we can improve, each day we can learn, each day, like you said it, we go through very difficult things every single day. It doesn't matter, difficultness and difficult things never going to stop in your life. When you try to reach like a flat happy place, that's not life. It's like soccer, it's like jobs, you always want to bring an improvement in yourself, in an emotional way, when you're a dad, when you are with a family, when you are with friends, when you are with a couple, when you are with your boss, when you are the boss, when you are posting things. Like, life is like that's the interesting part of it. Like, you can keep knowing yourself every single moment. And sorry that I keep like speaking more than another questions, but that's a subject that I'm trying to do in a way, in interviews, in my social media. My social media is easier because I don't have no one to ask me. But thank you specifically, because I don't want to say that you do the better job than the other guys that have been asking me. But I think I hope one day we can normalize ourselves, that we are humans, right? We are humans. It doesn't matter. Being here in this position doesn't mean that I have more value than yourself, guys, or than any other person working here in the stadium or whatever. We're just human. So we go through a lot of stuff. We're going to keep going through stuff. But the most important thing is, like, we can see ourselves as a human, that we want to push ourselves doing stuff. We want to do what we are passionate about it. But we shouldn't ask perfection, for ourselves, because we are humans in the end. I'm not a robot. I'm not perfect. No one is going to do it. So that's the funny thing. And that's the paradoxical thing in this life. And that's the incredible thing, that you always can know yourself, and you can improve, and you can grow.
I thought that was really poignant, Amelia, and I thought it was a really important response from him. Can you talk us through a little bit about that as well, and also what he means to Mexican football? And people really want to see him do well here, don't they?
They do, but I think a lot of, well, not but, there was a point where he was talking about, it's funny because this is the second time I listened to it. I got to listen to it as Josh was dissecting it during the Corner of the Pod yesterday. And while we were listening to it, speaking as someone who is involved in the Mexican media, it did feel like it was a little bit directed at them, when he was like, my words get twisted, or maybe not just them, just the way media is in general, although that's how Spanish media is sometimes, right? Taking kind of verbatim from what Josh said last night, it was like, if he says something good about somebody, for some reason they'll twist that and say it's like a negative thing to somebody else, and I think not just him, Vela's subject to it too. How many times does Vela get asked about the national team when he's already definitively said, I'm not returning? So they deal with that pressure, and they deal with that. And they are humans at the end of the day, like he says. And Chicharito, I mean, since his Chivas days, has always been a player that wears his heart on his sleeve. He's very emotional. He cried after the Germany match. He's that kind of player. And he's, I understood him. I could understand that frustration that he must have felt to kind of want to vent, but he did it in a very good way. He said it clearly. And I think a lot of people, whether they're fans of him or not, kind of understood him, because he has gone through a lot. And all that stuff, unfortunately, as a person in the public eye, has been talked about to death in Spanish and English. From LA Galaxy fans, they've had this level of frustration. So has MLS. And then from the Spanish media, it's always been there. It's followed him since he was young. So I appreciated what he had to say, and I like you said, I don't think that there's anybody at this point that doesn't want him to do good. I mean, even last season during the MLS is back tournament when he was missing all those goals, everybody was like, "Is he okay? Is he?"
That was painful to watch too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
No, it's a great assessment of him, and I think unless you're an LAFC fan, you're rooting for the guy to do well, and hopefully he will. Here's a quick soundbite from LA Galaxy new head coach Greg Vanney, a winner with Toronto. I'll tell you something: the presses are different, the vibes different. Amelia, there seems to be more cohesion, more togetherness. Not sure if they're going to be able to do much this season, but here's Greg Vanney, previous LA Galaxy player, now going back and managing. Hey, you guys, Arsenal fans who are listening, we give it to you all. I mean, Arteta's that guy, and Greg Vanney is kind of that guy this season. Here we go.
Yeah, for me, the first most important thing, especially early in a season or in a preseason, is that he's getting into good spots. He's getting touches in front of the goal. He was part of the creator in our first goal and only goal in the last game in the 1-0 win against Salt Lake. So he's getting balls in good spots. Sometimes I think for him is organizing his finish in one touch because guys are collapsing on him. They're obviously paying attention to him anytime he's around the goal and they're closing him off fast. And so some of it's just about sharpness and him releasing his shot just a little bit quicker. Some of it is again on us as a team. I thought we created some good moments in the last match, and that's starting to come together a little bit more. I've seen it more in training this week, and so again, it's something that involves the whole team, but just on a personal level for him, I think it's continuing to get sharp in front of the goal and releasing his finish a little bit quicker. Things like that are all coming as everybody's starting to get sharp, working through preseason and again in the beginning of a season. So I have a lot of confidence that it's going to come, and the fact that he's getting these touches in front of goal means that the goals and the chances are going to be there for him.
And Amelia, of course, there's no Christian Pavon this season, but really Christian Pavon and Chicha didn't gel very well, did they? You've got a couple of new French signings, some young explosive players who are going to be kicking off the new season, Grancière, Cabral, and maybe that's going to add a new dimension for him.
Yeah, I think the thing it's hard to say that Pavon and Chicharito didn't match because I think unfortunately a lot of that had to do with the system that GBS kept trying to play in. It didn't work in the way that he was trying to formulate it. Like Chicharito is a poacher through and through. We know this, and it seemed over and over again we were getting crosses in. I know that was like a huge, just like a pressure point for everybody. There was almost like a direct substitute to Zlatan, which wasn't what Chicharito was going to be at all.
Right.
I think bringing in Vanney was a good thing because it kind of eases up any for veteran LA Galaxy fans, and it's somebody that also feels that everybody's on board with him. Like you said, there seems to be a new feeling, a new dynamic around the club where he also understands what he's coming into and having to deal with somebody like Chicharito. And using him for the valuable asset that he is, which is a poacher. So I hope we're able to see that. Like he's saying, the good thing is he's putting himself in the right places. He's looking for the ball. He also understands that players are going to be marking him. So it's not just him. He needs to create a valuable just structure on the attacking end in general. It's not just like give it to Chicharito all over the. No, he needs outside, support. So I'm hoping that we. That I hope it's like, yes, Chicharito scores a lot, but he's not the only option, and you're not relying on him too heavily as a squad.
No, I agree. And obviously Inter Miami are coming in with, this is a big bang, big splash, you guys. Obviously they've got David Beckham behind them. They've also run into a pickle with DPs. Pellegrini I interviewed last year, funnily enough, at the Kobe MLS day where he was promoting body armor and stuff, and he's a good kid. They've got some issues there, but here's a very quick one before we end the show on a couple of important comments and some ratings. Real quick, Greg Vanney, LA Galaxy head coach, talking about playing David Beckham's Inter Miami.
Yeah, for us, it's a new journey. It's a new opportunity, kind of a new era with a new staff and a lot of new kind of fresh, I guess, ideas going into this new season. So from that way, it's an exciting opportunity for us to really officially kick things off. Obviously against David and their franchise, which is again another franchise that I believe that in time is going to be another outstanding model franchise for our league, with the ownership and the knowledge that they have over there. It's a wonderful opportunity to get two very good franchises who are in it to try to be the best on the field together and on opening day, which is fun. And obviously David's history here is goes without saying, and all the things that he was able to accomplish here in every way. So I'm excited for it. Mostly I'm excited for the opportunity for this group of players who have waited a long time to have their first game this year, through a long off season and a long preseason, to get the opportunity to go out and play a meaningful game for real and get their season started.
Amelia, more pressure on who? LA Galaxy and Chicha, or Inter Miami and David Beckham to get a win?
Ooh, that's a good question. I would say LA Galaxy and Chicha, only because I don't I don't know how to feel about Inter Miami. I know from the Mexican angle we have Pizarro over there, but they seem to be something that's not formulated correctly. So I think if you're looking at like clear expectations and the way things should go, I think LA Galaxy has more pressure in that sense. Just because we want to see Chicharito score.
Yeah, I agree with that. And Zamir, I'll try and put in a word this weekend about them taking Willian off your hands. No problem. Okay, there was another poignant moment during MLS Media Week. You know what happened with Sebastian Lletget. I'm going to let you explain this after from a cultural point of view. For those who are listening, Sebastian Lletget is a midfielder for LA Galaxy. He's also very important, has become an important player for the US men's national team. So he comes with a bit of a higher profile. And he's got a higher profile because he has a very famous girlfriend too, Becky G, a singer who has 25 million followers on Instagram. And something happened this week where he posted something on his Instagram. In the Mexican culture, there are many people that think it's just an innocuous word. And I don't know if that's the right word I'm using here, Amelia. But let's listen to what Sebastian said, taking on the responsibility right off the bat in terms of what happened. And then we'll have Amelia just explain it a little bit after.
Hi, yes, no, before we get started, I just wanted to address something real quick. For those of you who don't know, there was an incident that happened last week, and, honestly, I feel terrible about it, and that's why I'm addressing it now. And, for those of you also who haven't seen my statement, I'm just, I messed up, and I'm trying to take, full responsibility about it. And, I said a word that, shouldn't have been said. And although there's been a lot of discussion and debate about the meaning of the word, because of different dialects in Spanish and cultures. But the truth is, it's a harmful word and it shouldn't have been said on any level. So, and I'm working with the league now, and I have, plans. Obviously, it's early days, but to work with the LGBTQ plus community. And how we can get this word out of the game and out of people's mouth, including myself. So, for those of you who do have questions, I'm free to answer them. So I just wanted to say that really quick.
Now, Amelia, he could have ducked out of MLS Media Week. LA Galaxy could have pulled him. They didn't. He wanted to face it all on. And after that, I actually had a moment with him where, as a gay person, I explained that I understood that he wasn't coming from a bad place, that he made a massive mistake, but he also had to take it on the chin and deal with it. He got very emotional. So can you please explain to, especially some of our international listeners too, what happened here and what the difference is between people who didn't think he said anything bad versus people who are offended by it?
Yeah, so for any of you who don't know, or maybe on the international stage, it'll be a little bit clearer, and then we'll put it into context. So the Mexican national team has been fined first, and it was a huge campaign within the 2018 World Cup about getting rid of a chant. And essentially a chant is the P word. You can look it up yourself. But essentially what happens in Mexican culture is whenever a goalkeeper, the opposing goalkeeper, kicks the goal kick, the P word would be said. Now, the intention of it, like Lletget is saying, is lost in translation depending on what dialect you're speaking. But it came to terms, and I agree with this, that it's just cut off. You just have to not say it anymore completely. It's just it's one of those things within global, or just like, I guess, even American culture is like, hey, this is what it ends up meaning. And so it is derogatory. I know you said innocuous,
Yeah,
but
that's not the right word. Yeah,
it's more
derogatory.
At the end of the day, it is a derogatory term that is harmful to the LGBT community. And so it is that. What Leggett did, he's acknowledging, he's taking accountability. He shared something on social, which honestly, not that it's okay that he said it, but if that doesn't get shared, it doesn't get blown up to the proportion that it did. But he knew right away that he was wrong. And what he said, in the context of how he said it, he was saying it to, I think he said it to Araujo or something.
Yeah, Araujo.
He said it to Araujo, and he said it within the realm of talking to a teammate, right?
Yeah.
But
and they've got that thing where they slap each other on the neck this season when they're talking to press and stuff. Yeah.
Right. So it's a bit of banter, I guess, so to speak, in terms of people who are saying it's not a big deal. It was just banter amongst two teammates. But if you look at it and you look at language and you look at the way that it's used, he's essentially demasculating Araujo. If you're going to dive into it, that's not what he's doing when he's saying it. That's not how he's trying to make it out. But he ends up using it in the sake that you're trying to demasculate somebody and looking at femininity or whatever it is other as bad. And that's where it can escalate, where you just go, because trust me, it's been a huge discussion point within the Mexican culture, within national team games. We've even heard it come back during international games, during the Olympic qualifiers.
Yeah.
We heard it, and we need to have that discussion again. So it is a complicated discussion, but at the end of the day, it's just like, just get rid of it. There's no need. He's saying it he's saying it as an MLS player, as an LA Galaxy player, who there's a large Latinx and Hispanic community. And I think as soon as he was kind of told, hey, you messed up, he realized it really quickly. And like we said, he does have a girlfriend that is also of Mexican-American descent. So it gets very convoluted, where it's better to just omit or refrain from saying it at the end of the day.
And you've covered Leggett too. You've been there. You've seen him in presses and stuff like that. He's done a lot for Black Lives Matter. He stood behind his teammates. He stood up for causes. To me, he's authentic in his genuine kind of disappointment in himself. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and it's something that it transcends. I mean, this is one topic, but it transcends just reflecting immediately. And I think that that's what's good about what Leggett did. It seems almost instantaneous. And within the realm of media day, he said, I'm going to address it, because not so much that he doesn't have the liberty, I guess, to just stray away from it and just put out a statement and I'm done. I've done my part. I think he did realize, oh, this is bad. This is not okay. Yeah. And I think that's where, like you said, the genuineness does come back in, where I get it. It's incredibly complicated. I mean, it's something that we deal with here. I mean, there's so many different dialects, because unfortunately within Mexican soccer culture, we're still dealing with that, like misogyny, that sexism. As Sophie mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, we're seeing Mexican women's soccer elevate. We're getting those weird things where, like, this is not what you meant, but this is what you said, and this is how it harms or can impact marginalized people.
Exactly. All right, I've hogged you. It's on the Highbury Squad, as you know, it's called Sophie time. So I've taken you into overtime. I know you've got to get back to your little ones as well. But thank you, Amelia.
So I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. We'll find out.
What was that? What was that?
I said there's silence right now.
Oh, I know. Are you worried about the silence, or are you okay with it?
Well, I'm going to find out.
Do you have enough to do quick picks? We'll forget the top. I mean, we'll forget the list that we were going to do. But how about we just do our picks real quick, and then I'll play us out on the. I think I found a 3-2-5-2 video. Right. MLS Eastern Conference. Who's going to win it?
I say Columbus. What did you put?
I'm going to go Columbus too. I think they'll win it. I do. What about Western Conference? Who do you fancy?
I didn't put an answer. I'll wait for your answer, and then I'll decide when I'll.
This is a tough one. Is it going to be the year FC Dallas like capitalized? Is it going to be, Sounders? Are they the same? I'm not sure. This one's a really tough one. I might go with Sporting KC.
Ooh, that's a good one. And Pulido's there, so I wouldn't be opposed to that. I thought LAFC, but that felt too on the nose. So I'm gonna go Sporting. I'll go with you. I'll go Sporting.
Okay. All right, cool. Who's gonna win the Supporters' Shield?
I wrote Toronto. I don't know why. It just
left field.
Nobody never give these to me. I'm gonna be wrong. My quinielas are trash this year. Okay, don't give me predictions like this.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I might go. You know what? Here's one for you too. I might go New England, Bruce Arena. I'm going to go with the Sir Alex Ferguson of Major League Soccer, Mr. Bruce Arena.
They're number 3 on the MLS ranking, so you're not far.
Oh, really? Is Columbus is 1, right? Number 1?
Yes.
And 2 is
LAFC.
LAFC. Who's 4 and 5 then?
Portland and then Minnesota.
Yeah, Minnesota. That's a good dark horse bet. Okay, let's really quickly do who's in the MLS Cup final, the 2 teams in the final.
My rule is always Seattle +1. So
Seattle plus whoever else.
Seattle +1.
I love it. That's a good one. I'm going to go New England versus Minnesota.
Ooh.
We're gonna have to rewind these and do these. Okay, cool. Who's gonna win it all?
Seattle. It's just a safe answer.
Oh my god, I love it. I'm gonna go New England.
Okay.
I'm gonna go for Bruce to do it this year. Do it all. Listen, I tell you what, we've done it all. It's been a brilliant show. Our very first stateside squad. We've given you a little bit of a Southern California flair. In our next episode, we're going to go a little wider across the country. And when we're going to have Amelia give us a little Liga MX stuff next time too, because it is exciting and there's a lot happening, isn't there? When it comes to Liga MX. And I'd love for you to do a little piece on the MLS Liga MX rivalry. We've got the CONCACAF Champions League going on as well. MLS teams got off to a good start though, didn't they?
Yeah, congratulations to them. Leon once again was eliminated, unfortunately, but it's fun. It's fun when the banter stays in
the house. And as promised, before I go, I found this. Are you ready, Amelia? It's not landscape, unfortunately, so you'll still see Amelia and I in the frame. But I wanted to give everyone a flavor of 3252. Brilliant stuff. Can't wait for it to get back. Are we going to get back to that? How soon are we going to get back to that?
Oh, I'm one of the I'm not going on tomorrow because I'm I need to wait until everything's as safe as possible. So I'm giving it another 2 to 3 months, I think.
Okay, awesome stuff. Well, listen, tell everyone where they can find you. And we're going to be back in a couple of weeks again. But tell everyone, and then everyone can kind of dissect our choices at the end of the season too. But tell everyone where they can find you, Amelia.
Yeah, of course. You can find me at Azteca Amelia. I'm on all social media platforms under that handle. And if I see some comments about wanting to start following Liga MX. We actually have a really great Liga MX English podcast, The Mexican Soccer Show, on all social platforms. So if you want to listen to that, we have a very specific, my friend Cesar Hernandez does a Liga MX preview. So if you just want to listen to Liga MX, not any other Mexican soccer, you can enjoy that on Thursdays on other platforms as well.
Brilliant stuff from you. And thank you so much. We return in a couple weeks with our girl Delmi as well. You guys will get to meet Delmi too. This is going to be a female-driven presented show in the spirit of the Highbury Squad and how we develop the channel here. We're going to have lots of guests, including some fantastic, phenomenal men who cover the game, contributors, key influencers, more player interviews. I'll be going down to LAFC tomorrow to watch the game, so we'll report back on that. In the meantime, Amelia, thank you so much for joining me. Really appreciate you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody in the comments. It was nice to chat.
Good night, everyone.